My name is Evelyn, and for 30 years, I poured my heart and soul into Tech Solutions, a company that was once my second home. I started there right out of college, a wide-eyed graduate eager to make my mark in the burgeoning world of technology. Back then, the office felt like a family, a place where innovation was celebrated and loyalty was a cornerstone. I grew with the company, adapting to countless technological shifts, from the advent of the internet to the rise of mobile computing. My role in project management saw me oversee critical transitions, ensuring our systems ran smoothly and our clients remained satisfied. I prided myself on my meticulous attention to detail and my ability to foresee potential issues before they escalated. My colleagues often joked that I knew the company's infrastructure better than anyone, a walking encyclopedia of Tech Solutions' history and operational quirks. I had a knack for understanding the underlying logic of systems, a skill honed by decades of hands-on experience, not just theoretical knowledge. This deep understanding was my strength, my quiet superpower. However, over the last few years, a subtle but undeniable shift began to permeate the company culture. New, younger leadership arrived, brimming with buzzwords and an almost zealous belief in disruptive innovation and digital transformation. The emphasis moved from robust, reliable systems to agile, often untested new platforms. Our new CEO, a man barely half my age, spoke constantly of speed, scalability, and the imperative to shed legacy thinking. He championed a new, ambitious digital platform, internally dubbed Catalyst, promising to revolutionize our client interactions and streamline operations. It was a grand vision, but one that felt increasingly detached from the practical realities I knew so well. I observed the changes with a mix of curiosity and concern. While I embraced new technologies, I also understood the importance of thorough testing and a phased implementation. My experience had taught me that rushing into unproven solutions often led to costly mistakes and client dissatisfaction, lessons that seemed to be overlooked in the new era. The atmosphere in meetings began to change. My insights, once valued, were now often met with polite nods or dismissive glances. Conversations increasingly revolved around metrics and algorithms, sometimes at the expense of human understanding and long-term client relationships. It felt as though my decades of accumulated wisdom were suddenly deemed irrelevant. I tried to bridge the gap, offering my perspectives on potential pitfalls and suggesting ways to integrate new tools more effectively with our existing, stable systems. I explained the nuances of our client base, the historical context of certain operational flows, and the importance of a human touch in our service delivery. But my words seemed to fall on deaf ears, overshadowed by the enthusiasm for anything new and shiny. There was an unspoken narrative forming that older ways of thinking, and by extension, older employees, were impediments to progress. It was a subtle form of ageism, cloaked in the language of innovation. I saw colleagues, some just a few years younger than me, also struggling to find their footing in this new environment. The pressure to adopt new digital tools without adequate training or understanding was immense, creating an undercurrent of anxiety throughout the office. It felt less like evolution and more like a forced revolution. Despite the growing discomfort, I remained committed to my work, believing that my dedication and expertise would ultimately speak for themselves. I continued to deliver high-quality results, managing complex projects and troubleshooting issues that baffled my younger counterparts, often quietly fixing problems before they became visible. I even took online courses in new software, determined to prove that I was not resistant to change, but rather a proponent of effective change. I wanted to show that experience and new skills could coexist, creating a powerful synergy that would benefit the company. However, the CEO's rhetoric about agility and future-proofing intensified, often accompanied by thinly veiled remarks about those who couldn't keep up. The subtext was clear. If you weren't fully immersed in the new digital frontier, you were a liability. Then came the email, an impersonal notification requesting a meeting with HR and the CEO. My heart sank, a cold premonition settling in my stomach. I knew, with a certainty that only comes from years of experience, that this was not a meeting about a promotion or a new project. It was the beginning of the end of my 30-year career at Tech Solutions, a career I had built with unwavering dedication, now seemingly dismissed because of an arbitrary perception of age and adaptability. The stage was set for a confrontation I never imagined I would face. The meeting began with a forced pleasantness that immediately put me on edge. The CEO, Mr. Harrison, sat opposite me, flanked by a young HR representative who avoided eye contact. He started by praising my long and valuable service, words that felt hollow and insincere, a prelude to an inevitable blow. He then transitioned into a monologue about the company's forward trajectory and the unprecedented demands of the digital age. He spoke of the need for a workforce that was inherently digital native, agile, and unburdened by outdated methodologies. The air in the room grew heavy with unspoken implications. "Evelyn," he finally said, leaning forward, "we appreciate your contributions, but the pace of change now requires a different skill set. We're moving towards a fully integrated digital ecosystem, and frankly, we feel your approach is less aligned with our current needs." His words were carefully chosen, but the meaning was brutally clear. He then presented a carefully worded document outlining my severance package, as if this was a mutual decision rather than a unilateral dismissal. The terms were generous enough to avoid legal challenges, but they felt like a bribe to silence my decades of loyalty and expertise. It was a cold, calculated move. I listened, stunned, as he explained that my role was being restructured and that I was being let go because I was too old for digital tools. The phrase hung in the air, a stark, insulting dismissal of my entire professional life, a blatant act of age discrimination disguised as corporate strategy. My mind raced, recalling all the late nights, the critical projects I had salvaged, the countless times my experience had saved the company from costly errors. Was this truly how they valued 3 decades of unwavering commitment? Was my accumulated wisdom truly a burden rather than an asset? I tried to articulate my frustration, to point out my recent efforts to learn new software and my proven track record of adaptability. I reminded them of the unique institutional knowledge I possessed, knowledge that was not easily quantifiable by their new digital metrics. But Mr. Harrison merely offered a condescending smile. "Evelyn, we understand this is difficult, but the future is about speed, about intuition with new platforms. It's about a different kind of energy." He implied that my age somehow diminished my capacity for this new energy. The HR representative chimed in, reciting corporate platitudes about smooth transitions and support for career reevaluation. It was clear they had anticipated my reaction and had a script ready, designed to minimize any emotional fallout and expedite my departure. I felt a surge of anger, but also a profound sense of betrayal. This wasn't just about a job. It was about my identity, my purpose, and the decades I had invested in building something meaningful. To be cast aside so casually, with such a flimsy and discriminatory excuse, was a deep wound. I left that meeting feeling adrift, walking out of the building I had entered as a hopeful young woman so many years ago, now dismissed as an obsolete relic. The bustling streets of Austin, once a symbol of vibrant innovation, now seemed to mock my sudden irrelevance. The next few days were a blur of paperwork, goodbyes that felt like eulogies, and the painful process of clearing out my office. Each item I packed, each photo I removed from my desk, was a stark reminder of a life that was abruptly ending, not on my terms. Whispers followed me, hushed conversations among former colleagues who were either sympathetic or, worse, relieved it wasn't them. The fear of being next, of also being deemed too old, hung heavy in the air, a silent testament to the new, ruthless corporate culture. I tried to process the injustice, the blatant disregard for experience, the shallow pursuit of novelty over substance. It wasn't just about me. It was about a systemic problem, a dismissive attitude towards an entire generation of skilled professionals. But amidst the despair, a tiny spark of defiance began to flicker. If they thought I was too old for digital tools, they were about to learn a very painful lesson about the irreplaceable value of true expertise and the wisdom that only comes with time. I resolved that this wouldn't be the end of my story, but merely a painful, yet necessary, turning point. The digital tools they championed would prove to be their undoing, and I would be ready to witness it, perhaps even to play a part in the inevitable reckoning. Life after tech solutions felt like navigating a foreign land. My days, once structured by meetings and project deadlines, now stretched endlessly, filled with an unfamiliar quiet. The initial shock gave way to a profound sense of loss and, at times, a gnawing self-doubt. Had I truly become complacent? Had I resisted change without realizing it? These questions haunted me, even though deep down, I knew my dismissal was rooted in prejudice, not performance. The sting of being deemed irrelevant by people I had once mentored was particularly sharp. I spent weeks trying to make sense of it all, replaying conversations, analyzing the subtle cues I had missed. It became clear that the decision to let me go wasn't about my individual capabilities, but about a broader, misguided corporate philosophy that prioritized youth and superficial digital fluency over depth and wisdom. My former colleagues, the ones who dared to reach out, shared stories of the increasing chaos at Tech Solutions. The new Catalyst platform, the one I was supposedly too old to understand, was experiencing significant teething problems. It seemed the rush to implement had overlooked critical details. They spoke of missed deadlines, frustrated clients, and a general sense of panic among the younger teams who lacked the foundational knowledge to troubleshoot complex issues. The very speed Mr. Harrison had championed was now leading to instability and a growing number of errors. I listened, a strange mix of vindication and sadness washing over me. I had warned them about these exact scenarios, about the importance of a robust backend and thorough user testing. My advice had been dismissed as legacy thinking, and now they were paying the price. I started to notice job postings for positions remarkably similar to my old role, but with slightly altered titles, emphasizing digital transformation specialists or agile project leads. It was a clear attempt to replace experienced professionals with a new generation, regardless of their actual qualifications. The tech industry, particularly in Austin, seemed to be caught in a frenzy of chasing the next big thing, often at the expense of foundational principles. There was a pervasive belief that anything old was inherently bad, and anything new was inherently good, regardless of its efficacy. This period of forced introspection, though painful, also became a catalyst for my own growth. I began to see the world beyond the confines of Tech Solutions, realizing that my value wasn't tied to a single company or a specific title. My skills were transferable, my experience invaluable. I started networking, attending industry events not as a representative of Tech Solutions, but as Evelyn, an independent professional. I met people from diverse backgrounds, some who shared similar stories of ageism, others who recognized the immense value of seasoned expertise. One evening, at a local tech meetup, I overheard a conversation about a new startup struggling with a complex data migration. Their young team was brilliant with cutting-edge tools, but lacked the historical context of data structures and system interdependencies. A quiet thought began to form. Perhaps my outdated methodologies were precisely what these new companies needed. Perhaps the very experience that had led to my dismissal was, in fact, my greatest asset in a world obsessed with superficial digital solutions. I realized that my decades of experience had given me a unique perspective, a holistic understanding of technology that went beyond mere tool proficiency. I could see the bigger picture, connect the dots, and anticipate problems in ways that pure digital fluency couldn't. The fear of being too old slowly began to recede, replaced by a quiet confidence. I wasn't just a former employee. I was a veteran, a strategist, a problem solver with a wealth of knowledge that was suddenly becoming highly relevant again. I started to reframe my narrative, not as someone who had been discarded, but as someone who had been liberated. Liberated from a company that no longer valued true expertise, liberated to pursue new opportunities where my wisdom would be celebrated. The seeds of doubt that had been planted by Mr. Harrison's dismissal began to wither, replaced by a growing conviction that my journey was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning, on my own terms, with a renewed sense of purpose and a clear vision for the future. The initial sting of dismissal slowly morphed into a fierce determination. I decided to channel my energy into something productive, something that would prove Mr. Harrison utterly wrong. I wasn't too old for digital tools. I was simply too experienced for their narrow-minded vision. I enrolled in advanced online courses, not just in new software, but in digital strategy, data analytics, and cloud architecture. I wanted to master the very digital tools they claimed I couldn't grasp, but with the added layer of my deep understanding of business processes and client needs. I spent hours immersed in learning, fueled by a quiet resolve. It wasn't about proving something to Tech Solutions anymore. It was about proving it to myself. I discovered a renewed passion for learning, a joy in connecting new concepts with my existing knowledge base. During this period, I reconnected with Sarah, a former colleague who had left Tech Solutions years ago to start her own boutique consulting firm. She had always valued my insights and was now facing challenges scaling her business, particularly with complex client integrations. Sarah confided in me about the struggles of many startups: brilliant ideas, cutting-edge technology, but often lacking the foundational project management and long-term strategic planning that ensures sustainable growth. She saw the gaps where my experience could be invaluable. "Evelyn," she said during one of our coffee meetings, "you have a perspective that these young teams desperately need. They know how to build, but you know why and what to build for longevity." Her words were a balm to my still-healing professional ego. She offered me a part-time consulting role, working on a project that required a deep understanding of legacy systems and their integration with modern cloud solutions. It was exactly the kind of challenge that blended my extensive experience with new digital demands. This small opportunity was a lifeline, a chance to apply my skills in a new environment, free from the stifling culture of Tech Solutions. I approached the work with renewed vigor, quickly demonstrating my ability to streamline complex processes and anticipate technical hurdles. Word of my effectiveness spread. Other small businesses and startups, facing similar integration challenges, began to reach out. They were tired of generic, one-size-fits-all digital solutions that failed to address their unique operational complexities. I found myself in demand, not despite my age, but because of my experience. My ability to bridge the gap between traditional business logic and modern digital frameworks was a rare and valuable commodity in the fast-paced Austin tech scene. I started building a small network of clients, focusing on providing tailored digital transformation strategies rather than just implementing off-the-shelf tools. I help companies understand their data, optimize their workflows, and truly leverage technology for long-term success. It was exhilarating to see the tangible impact of my work, to witness businesses thrive because of the insights I provided. I was no longer just managing projects. I was empowering companies, helping them navigate the very digital landscape that had once seemed to dismiss me. The irony was not lost on me. While Tech Solutions struggled with its flawed Catalyst platform, I was quietly building a reputation as the go-to expert for effective, sustainable digital solutions, proving that wisdom and experience were indeed timeless assets. I felt a sense of purpose I hadn't realized I had lost. This new chapter wasn't just about earning a living. It was about reclaiming my professional identity, demonstrating the enduring value of my expertise, and embracing a more authentic path. The whispers of doubt that had plagued me after my dismissal were replaced by the hum of productive work and the quiet satisfaction of making a real difference. I was no longer defined by someone else's narrow perception, but by my own undeniable impact. While I was building my new consulting practice, news from Tech Solutions became increasingly dire. The Catalyst platform, their grand digital transformation project, was failing spectacularly. What started as minor glitches had escalated into full-blown system outages and data breaches. Clients were furious, losing faith in a company that had once prided itself on reliability. The ambitious, untested platform, rushed into production without proper foundational work, was crumbling under the weight of its own complexity. Mr. Harrison's speed had become their undoing. I heard stories from former colleagues about the frantic attempts to fix the issues. Young, digitally fluent teams were overwhelmed, lacking the historical context of Tech Solution systems and client needs to effectively diagnose the root causes of the problems. They were brilliant with new tools but couldn't see the forest for the trees. The company's stock plummeted, major contracts were jeopardized, and the once confident facade of Mr. Harrison began to crack. The very digital tools he had championed and for which he had dismissed experienced professionals like me were now the source of their catastrophic downfall. Then, the call came. It was Mark, a senior executive at Tech Solutions, someone I had mentored early in his career. His voice was strained, laced with desperation. "Evelyn," he began, "we're in a crisis. Catalyst is a disaster. We need your help." My heart pounded. This was the moment of vindication, the inevitable reckoning I had quietly anticipated. They were coming back to the very legacy thinking they had so vehemently dismissed, realizing that true expertise was irreplaceable. I listened as Mark detailed the extent of the damage: client data corrupted, critical functionalities failing, and an internal team paralyzed by the sheer scale of the problems. He admitted that their current staff lacked the institutional memory to untangle the mess. "We need someone who understands the old systems, who can bridge the gap between what we had and what we tried to build," Mark pleaded. "Someone who can see the whole picture, not just the code." He was describing my unique skill set, the very one they had discarded. I took a deep breath, allowing myself a moment of quiet satisfaction. "Mark," I replied calmly, "I'm no longer an employee of Tech Solutions. My services come with a different arrangement now." I made it clear that any engagement would be on my terms, as an independent consultant. He didn't hesitate. "Whatever it takes, Evelyn. Name your price. We're bleeding money and reputation." Mr. Harrison is desperate. The man who had dismissed me as too old was now begging for my help, acknowledging, albeit indirectly, his profound misjudgment. I agreed to a preliminary assessment, but with strict conditions: full access to all systems, complete transparency from their teams, and no interference from Mr. Harrison. This wasn't about revenge. It was about professional integrity and ensuring I could actually solve the problem. Walking back into Tech Solutions, not as an employee but as an external expert, was a surreal experience. The same security guards who had watched me leave with a box of my belongings now greeted me with deference. The atmosphere was tense, filled with anxiety and a desperate hope. I met with the teams, observing their struggles, listening to their fragmented explanations. It was clear they had been trained on the how but not the why, unable to connect the digital dots to the underlying business logic that I knew so intimately. My initial assessment confirmed my suspicions. The Catalyst platform was fundamentally flawed, built on a shaky understanding of the company's core operations. It was a digital facade without a solid foundation, a classic case of prioritizing flash over function. My return to Tech Solutions, albeit as a consultant, sent ripples through the company. Some of the younger employees looked at me with a mix of curiosity and awe, as if I were a ghost from a forgotten era, now returned to haunt their digital dreams. Mr. Harrison, surprisingly, was conspicuously absent from my initial briefings. He seemed to avoid direct confrontation, perhaps too embarrassed to face the woman he had so casually dismissed. His silence spoke volumes about his current predicament. I began my work methodically, approaching the broken Catalyst platform like a seasoned detective. I started by reviewing the original system architecture, the very one I had helped design decades ago, understanding its strengths and weaknesses intimately. I then delved into the new platform's code, identifying the critical points of failure, the shortcuts taken, and the fundamental misunderstandings of data flow. It was like untangling a massive digital knot, a task that required both technical skill and historical insight. My approach was not about tearing down the new, but about strategically integrating the best of the old with the necessary components of the new. I proposed a phased rollback of certain Catalyst features, replacing them with stable, proven functionalities from the legacy system. This wasn't a popular suggestion with the digital native teams who viewed any return to older methods as a step backward. But I explained the necessity of building a stable bridge before attempting to cross a chasm, emphasizing reliability over novelty. I held workshops, not to lecture, but to guide. I taught the younger engineers about the business logic behind their code, the client needs that drove certain system designs, and the importance of robust testing over rapid deployment. It was a masterclass in practical application. Slowly, painstakingly, we began to stabilize the platform. The critical outages became less frequent, the data integrity issues were resolved, and client complaints began to subside. The air of panic at Tech Solutions gradually gave way to a cautious optimism. Mr. Harrison eventually sought me out, his usual swagger replaced by a humble demeanor. "Evelyn," he said, his voice softer than I had ever heard it, I was wrong. We needed your wisdom. We needed you." His admission was a quiet, yet profound vindication. I simply nodded, maintaining a professional distance. It wasn't about gloating. It was about demonstrating the undeniable truth that experience, foresight, and a holistic understanding of technology were invaluable, regardless of age. My consulting contract was extended, and then extended again as I continued to guide tech solutions through their recovery. I helped them not just fix the Catalyst platform, but rebuild their internal processes, fostering a culture that valued both innovation and stability. I insisted on the implementation of thorough testing protocols, comprehensive documentation, and robust training programs for all new digital tools. I ensured that the lessons learned from the Catalyst failure would not be forgotten. The company slowly began to regain its footing, its reputation gradually mending. It was a testament to the power of combining cutting-edge technology with the timeless wisdom of experience, a synergy that had been tragically overlooked. I was no longer just fixing a platform. I was helping to heal a company, to restore its integrity, and to redefine its approach to digital transformation. It was a deeply satisfying experience, far more rewarding than any previous project. As Tech Solutions stabilized and began its slow climb back to prominence, my role shifted from crisis management to strategic advisory. I was no longer just fixing problems. I was helping to shape the company's future, ensuring their digital initiatives were built on solid foundations. Mr. Harrison, now genuinely humbled, offered me a permanent, executive-level position, complete with a significant salary increase and stock options. He wanted me to lead their new Strategic Innovation and Resilience division, a role specifically designed to prevent future Catalyst-like disasters. It was a tempting offer, a full-circle moment that would have seen me return to the very company that had dismissed me, now with more power and influence than ever before. It was the ultimate professional vindication, a public acknowledgement of my irreplaceable value. However, during my time consulting, I had discovered something even more fulfilling: the freedom and impact of independent work. My small consulting practice had grown exponentially, attracting clients who truly valued my unique blend of experience and modern digital expertise. I had built a team of my own, a diverse group of young, bright minds eager to learn from my experience, combined with seasoned professionals who appreciated my holistic approach. We were solving complex problems for a variety of businesses, making a tangible difference. My work was no longer confined to one company's internal politics. I was a trusted advisor across the industry, a go-to expert for companies navigating the treacherous waters of digital transformation. I was building my own empire, one successful project at a time. I politely declined Mr. Harrison's offer, explaining that my path had diverged. "Mr. Harrison," I said, "I've found my true calling. I'm building a firm that helps companies avoid the very mistakes Tech Solutions made. My impact is broader now." He understood, a hint of respect in his eyes. He even offered to be my first major client, signing a lucrative long-term contract for my firm to provide ongoing strategic oversight for Tech Solutions' digital initiatives. It was a testament to his newfound understanding. My firm, Evelyn Digital Strategies, became a beacon for businesses seeking genuine digital transformation, not just superficial upgrades. We focused on sustainable growth, robust systems, and the integration of human intelligence with cutting-edge technology. We championed the idea that experience was not a liability but a profound asset, that wisdom gained over decades was irreplaceable. We actively sought out and mentored professionals of all ages, creating a truly inclusive and effective team. The story of my dismissal and subsequent triumph spread through the Austin tech scene, becoming a cautionary tale for companies obsessed with youth and a source of inspiration for seasoned professionals. I was invited to speak at conferences, sharing my journey and advocating for the value of diverse perspectives. I found immense satisfaction in empowering others, in showing them that age was just a number and that true expertise transcended fleeting trends. My second act was proving to be far more impactful and fulfilling than my first. My financial success grew beyond anything I could have imagined during my corporate career. But more importantly, I found a profound sense of purpose, a deep satisfaction in knowing that my experience, once dismissed, was now a powerful force for good. Life now, years after my dismissal from Tech Solutions, is a testament to resilience and the enduring power of wisdom. My firm, Evelyn Digital Strategies, has expanded, with offices in multiple tech hubs and a reputation for delivering unparalleled results. We've become leaders in bridging the gap between traditional business acumen and cutting-edge digital innovation. Our clients range from established corporations seeking to modernize their infrastructure to agile startups needing a solid strategic foundation. I continue to learn, to adapt, and to embrace new technologies, but always with a critical lens of experience. I teach my team that true innovation isn't about discarding the past, but about building upon it, learning from its lessons, and integrating it thoughtfully. The ageism that once tried to define me now feels like a distant memory, a painful but ultimately transformative chapter in my life. It forced me to rediscover my own strength, to redefine my worth, and to build something truly my own. I often reflect on Mr. Harrison and Tech Solutions. They recovered, learning a hard lesson about the true cost of short-sightedness and discrimination. Our ongoing partnership is a symbol of that growth, a bridge built on mutual respect and shared understanding. My journey has taught me that true value isn't measured by a birth date or a superficial checklist of digital tools. It's measured by impact, by problem solving, by the depth of understanding that only comes from years of dedicated effort and continuous learning. I mentor young professionals, encouraging them to seek out wisdom from all sources, to appreciate the lessons of history, and to never underestimate the quiet power of experience. I also speak to seasoned professionals, reminding them that their knowledge is a treasure, not a burden. The tech world is constantly evolving, and I remain at its forefront, not by chasing every fleeting trend, but by understanding the timeless principles that govern effective technology and successful business. My approach is holistic, human-centered, and deeply rooted in practical wisdom. I am Evelyn, no longer defined by a corporate title or someone else's narrow perception of my capabilities. I am an innovator, a strategist, a leader, and a testament to the fact that true expertise only grows richer with time. My story is a reminder that what seems like an ending can often be a powerful new beginning. When someone tries to diminish your worth, especially based on something as arbitrary as age, remember that your greatest strength might just be the very thing they fail to see. The digital tools are merely instruments. It's the hand that wields them, guided by a mind enriched by decades of experience, that truly creates magic. My leader thought I was too old, but I proved that wisdom is the ultimate digital tool. I am more fulfilled, more impactful, and more authentically myself than I ever was within the confines of a single corporation. My journey is a testament to the fact that when one door closes, a whole new world of opportunity can open if you dare to step through it. My success isn't just about financial gains. It's about the freedom to choose, the joy of making a real difference, and the profound satisfaction of proving that wisdom, indeed, triumphs over prejudice.